Glory stunned Adelaide to send the home fans off happy for the season. Just how high is the ceiling for Pearman, the Prince of Perth? And sticking fat, the club's set to back Zdrillic into 2026. All that and more coming up. This is the Far Post Perth podcast powered by ID Athletic. Visit idathletic.com for all your merchandise, all your kit requirements. Brand new catalogue out for winter. Make sure you go to idathletic.com and check it all out. And of course, Trio Homes. If you're looking to build, redesign or renovate, visit triohomes.com.au. Blaine Treadgold is my name, as always, going around the table next door to me, James Renton. Welcome back, mate.
Thanks, Blaine.
Jackson Bassett's with us, AC Milan, mate.
Yeah, good shirt.
Yeah.
Positive vibes after a good weekend.
There you go, happy days. And Neil Sherwin's with us.
Hello.
Neil, you're wearing, well, I guess you're celebrating, that was the year that we won it, but that was the grey one
kit.
that we played against Chelsea, wasn't it?
There you go. Yes. So I thought I might test the memories with that one. Yeah. The grey with the purple sleeves. I didn't really like it at the time, but then I realised that it's not a white kit, so I'm all about it because Glory just love doing a white kit pretty much most years.
Yeah.
Although this should have gone lilac.
Well, I remember going all the way back to 2005, all the away kits across the league were just reverse whites.
Yeah.
Very creative.
Yeah, I didn't mind the grey ensemble that they wore against Chelsea that time in their friendly. So.
It was different.
Definitely.
Not everyone's cup of tea, but it was different.
I like it.
Yep. Let's get started, boys. The only way that we know how, the good, the bad, and the ugly for the week. Renton, kick us off, mate.
I might have a few people's good, but that is the stat that was released by 10 Football this afternoon, which was the improvement in viewership across Australia for the A-League men's and A-League women's competition. I mean, there's obviously been a fair bit of discourse over the last few years about enough people tuning into the A-Leagues and going to the games. Well, I think this season, both in terms of people that are watching it on TV, on free-to-air, or people that are going to the games, there's been an increase either way. The key stat in terms of viewership from Channel 10 and 10 Play, I'm pretty sure, is that it is up, or the A-League, at least the A-League men's, is up 11% year on year across total TV. And so far this season, they've reached a combined total of 3.96 million Aussies across the men's A-League and the women's A-League. So I would like to hope, in theory, that it can lead to a better broadcast deal, because I'm sure that the distribution cuts would have hurt all of the clubs, maybe some more than others. But I'd like to hope that, the broadcasters can see that the A-League is a good product, and not just the men's, but also the women's. And hopefully with more investment put into it, the product can only get better moving forward.
I don't want to be Nelly negative, but I always look at these stats with a little bit of skepticism because you see these come out and you can generally pick a few holes in them. So just to clarify, that is just through the 10 network and 10 Play. That's not in New Zealand with the new team.
It's not including New Zealand numbers.
No. Sure. Okay.
So if you add them in, that should be even higher, given the hype from Auckland.
Yep.
So we'd like to hope, because obviously it's been a little bit negative, but we'd like to hope, at least in the sense of a broadcast deal for next season, ideally, that it can look a little better than what it was for this season. Yeah,
you just hope that when these stats come out, they're not a little bit disingenuous, and you can kind of look at a bigger picture and go, hold on a second, what's going on there, Jackson?
Yeah, I mean, I've not got really much to add to that. Hopefully it is an improved deal going forward, and it's good that hopefully more eyes are on the product, and it's good to see attendances as well. I think you mentioned that earlier. Is
definitely improved on last season.
Yeah. A lot of positives in that regard.
Yeah, it's still a long way to go, it must be said. There's teams that, clubs that have gone backwards and clubs that aren't hitting the heights that they probably should. But I guess, you can take that on face value as a positive. Keep us going, mate, with your good.
Another good weekend for the young Aussie contingent in the league. And it was good to see some different names popping up than usual. Obviously, at the top of the Golden Boot race, you've got Botic, Archie Goodwin, Nicholas Milanovic. But this week, Adrian Segicic, 2 goals and 2 belters against Auckland. A couple of the Newcastle lads had good games. Eli Adams with 2 goals, goal and 2 assists for Clayton Taylor. Valupale, 6 consecutive games with the goal, so he's right in form, and it's come at a good time for him in victory. And obviously the Prince of Perth with 2 very well taken goals in the Glory game. So it's a wide array of talent coming through, and I'm sure we'll see a bit more next season as well, because there's everywhere you look, and no matter what club, there's some bright sparks, and we've seen a lot of players really up their levels in the league this year.
Neil?
Yeah, I was going to mention Adams and Taylor with Newcastle. When they've been good, they've been brilliant. Adams scored that worldy goal for victory here. Was it last season?
Yeah, I was really surprised to hear some comments because I thought he was good after that performance, and I thought there was a bit of promise there. And then I think I was just fishing through some A-League forums, and I was really surprised to see that in victory they were quite happy to see him go. And I thought, hold on a second, I reckon there's a little bit of promise there. And he's shown it.
Maybe he wasn't as nippy as the likes of Azani and Valupale, and I guess maybe the victory fans were wanting a bit more speed because Adams is a bit more of that lanky sort of player, perhaps. But didn't have that burst of acceleration.
One of the primary concerns amongst victory fans has been they're not bringing through those young players.
Yeah, and I think potentially it was a good for him because now he's playing every week and he's 21 games, 9 goals. It was a great return for Newcastle. And Clayton Taylor's 21, 6 goals, 5 assists. I think Newcastle are a very hot and cold team. Their league position reflects that. Their goal difference is +1. So they're scoring a lot and they're scoring and conceding in equal measure. But when we were subject to them terrorising Glory here earlier in the season. I think when they're on, they're excellent. And those two players are very good. So yeah, I was going to touch on them. The other thing probably for me would be the form of Western Sydney and Alan Stajic doing a great job there. They're within touching distance of second spot. They're 4 points behind City and they play each other next. So a win there for Western Sydney, and then there'll be 2 games left and they'll be right in the mix. They've got a better goal difference than City as well. So the way they've come on probably over the last month or two, the jury was definitely out on Stajic probably around mid-season. But I think he's got them playing really well now. And they're stretching their legs. And I said, last 5 games, 3 wins, 2 draws, unbeaten. And that's momentum going into finals as well, which is key. So I think he's done a pretty good job there in steadying the ship and also now potentially putting pressure on for what would be an important second spot finish if they were to get it.
Yeah, no, fair enough. My goods, I didn't see too much football across the weekend. I was a bit caught up with other commitments, and when I head in to do my commentary, we're usually there a couple of hours before the game, so I usually miss the Saturday afternoon football. So I'm just going to mention the moving of the Australia Cup playoff fixtures to May rather than in that kind of hollow space in the middle of July, August. I just think that's a lot more helpful. There's A-League finals football going on. There's still a little bit of something to play for those lowly teams who have to go through the qualifying process. I just think it lands a little bit better.
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah.
Well, you're not left with 2. Well, we're going to use the word underdone teams when they play each other.
Well, if you want to go down there, it's kind of weird because you have to come back. Yeah. You have to go through this rigmarole. All right, we've got to get up for one.
New players have to pick up the pieces from the lads that got them in this position in the first place.
Exactly, and you've got to kind of get up and. If you don't, you're back on holidays kind of style, or you're India.
Hard to build a routine.
I think so.
Get it out of the way at the end. It's like playoffs. Get them done at the end of the season, and then you draw a line under the year and done. So no, I think it's good, and I actually don't mind that they're doing it in Darwin again. Let that be a tradition.
Yeah, we need to start. We've talked about building these. Let's keep it.
And I think if they do settle on a particular weekend and whatnot, fans can plan for it as well every year. That potentially you could go to Darwin and do that double header. If we know Glory are going to be in it every year,
the only alternative that I'd suggest is it's a 2-legged.
Yeah, well, where would you play the second leg?
No, you have it just home and away.
Home and away.
Yeah.
What, in Darwin? Just played each other twice?
No, not you idiots. That's the only suggestion that I'd make if you just wanted to make a little bit of a, give the fans something to that couldn't get up there. So, yeah.
What do you think that the appetite would be for that playoff at HBF Park in May after a wooden spoon season?
Well, I don't know. They got a few out to Sam Kerr Football Centre for the FA Cup against Melbourne City, didn't they? So
optimism, though, we were sold a dream there. So I like the idea of, because there's not much. That stadium in Darwin's pretty cool, and the backdrop of the sunset and all that. And they don't have a team up there. So if nothing else, it gives them the football in the area an event to build.
I'd love to head up there. I had a look at flights the other day, but it's a bit.
It's like a mini gather round of sorts, isn't it?
It is. Flights up there from Perth are about $700 one way. It's the way of the world. Also, just a shout out, we spoke about this a little bit off air, but for those lucky enough to get to the game early, that montage that they showed on the big screen, that was absolutely outstanding. Not sure who put that together, possibly Jack Foley or maybe Michael Jepson or someone. Apologies if I've mixed up a name there, but I thought that was outstanding.
That's what should be getting played pre-game to build the hype.
Should be every
Every
that
game.
kind of stuff. Yep. I think it was good. So, we've reposted that on our social media. So if you haven't seen it, then head over to either the Perth Glory pages or the Far Post Perth. Good James,
for bad, Adelaide United. For a side that was very close to the top of the table at one point this season and was getting a lot of praise, their fall off has been really quite alarming. In their last 4 games, they've conceded 17 goals. And it doesn't matter if you're, trying to fight for a spot in the top 2 or the top 6, or you're trying to get out of the bottom 4. That's just simply not a good enough return. And I think that's been a reoccurring issue for Adelaide that, they've been a great side going forward, but they've not got that stable foundation of a good defence to, or even just a good defensive structure just to rely on. And I think, the way in which they want to play under Carl Viet, especially how they did against the Glory, just asked Perth to, especially with how high their defenders play and when they don't have a lot of recovery speed, especially when you've got someone like Harvey Lopez at fullback. You're just asking for a cheeky long ball over the top, or you're just putting your defence under so much pressure that it is just then too much for the attackers to deal with. So obviously it's no doubt a difficult situation for the players, knowing that Carl Viet won't be there. And I guess there's that uncertainty of, well, who's coming in? Are they going to go with, a South Australian coach like a Ross Aloisi or a Michael Valkanis, or are they going to look within? Or are they going to go Dutch? There's probably that uncertainty, and I think maybe was it the right time to announce Carl going? I don't know. Maybe it's up for debate, but their form, at least in these last 4 games or so, has been very concerning.
I know there's been rumours about the Aloisi brothers coming to Perth. That looks to be pretty much put to bed. But what a hell of a homecoming it'd be to have the Aloisi brothers go back to Adelaide.
Be massive,
and
with their pipeline of talent. Yeah, I'd be massive. Yeah,
they've got a good history. Adelaide United's got a good history of promoting their own, whether it's players or coaches. Aurelio Vidmar, Carl Viet, Damien Morey was in the shop window for a while there. Who else have they got? I think Eugene Galakovic is up and coming as a coach. Yeah. And then you can look at the players, the homegrown players that they've gone on to produce. So they've got that good pedigree, that good local pedigree, Jackson.
Yeah, my feeling is they'll probably go Dutch, just based on the ownership. Whether that's going to be the right call in the end, very early to see. But the focus now should just be trying to get some form back, because they're sitting outside the 6 now, and I don't see how they sneak back in with the form they're in. I think it's going to be too hard for them to turn around at this point in the season.
Yeah, 23 played, 9 wins, 6 draws, 8 losses.
They do have some winnable games left.
A game behind Sydney. A point behind Sydney.
They do have some winnable games left in Wellington at home and Brisbane away. But which Adelaide's going to turn up? That's going to be the big question, I think.
Jackson, keep us rolling, mate.
I wanted to just bring to light a conversation I had with Neil on Saturday.
Oh, here we go.
Football friends.
Ooh, friends.
And we're talking about Trent Ostler, and I'm just going to use him as an example, because there's probably a lot more players in the league who are similar when it comes to this.
I know where this is going, yep.
So we noticed that wherever he was on the pitch, whatever predicament he was in, he just refused to use his opposite foot. And it surprises me that for a professional footballer who plays 25 games plus a season, is training every week, and has grown up playing the game, it just baffles me as to how you don't have the confidence to be able to use your weaker foot. And especially for an attacker and a winger like he is.
Playing on the left.
Yeah. Left or right, because you can play the right as well. It just makes you so one-dimensional and predictable. Because if you're a defender up against him, if you know he can only use the right foot, then you can either show him the line or allow him to cut in based on that. And, you can get away with it to a certain degree. Not everyone can be like Ousmane Dembele or, Heung-min Son and be equally as proficient on both feet. But it's just something that really surprised me watching the game and just seeing how obvious it was from him. And he's not the only one. I think we mentioned Labib as well as someone who had that as well. We noticed when Neil brought it up that earlier on he just didn't have the confidence to distribute with his left foot playing at centre back, and it just closes up your options. I
think the term they used in Zoolander was ambi-turner. you can only turn one way.
Yeah,
and you've seen a bit of that they like right or left sided centre backs can't turn left to play to the left back because they haven't got that confidence to play a pass. With Osler, it was a couple of times he turned inside from the left wing and turned right into trouble rather than playing the ball in the line. There was one where kind of just towed the ball into the crowd with his right foot from the left back position rather than left foot down the line. And that's what made it glaringly obvious. And it's not just a big on one player. He just happened to be on our side playing on the left while we were watching the game, and it was an observation that we made. But yeah, it is something that you see quite a lot. Look, if you're Leo Messi, you can get away with having a right foot that you just stand on, or Maradona. But if you're playing at a certain level, I really think you should be able to use both feet in some capacity to pump a ball down the line at least, or pass a ball 10 yards to your left. Maybe not.
Yeah. Keep us going, mate.
What was my bad? I didn't really have one because we're all high on life and glory and all that stuff. But
not allowed to be positive around here, Neil.
No, we're not. No,
give us bloody negative.
No, we need a reason for people to pull us up on our negativity.
Yes.
Wellington Phoenix, just shit. Really, they've dropped off massively, and it's limping over the line. Down to 11th now, and they'll probably finish there. And I actually think it makes it a very winnable game for Glory in the last game of the season. Don't necessarily fare well in New Zealand when Glory travelled there, but this Wellington team at the moment, they lost their mid-season marquee man to a season-ending injury as well, which won't help them, and they're really over-reliant on Costa Barbarouses for goals as well and chances. So, a really disappointing season for them. And there's already talk of I think the owner, chairman, whichever he is, David Dome, came out and said there's going to be a big review of both the men's and women's teams because of how bad a season it's been. So we could see a coaching change there as well. See a really bad season for Wellington, and probably really tough to take for their fans, given how Auckland have been, given how good Auckland have been.
Noisy neighbours.
Not only are you. It's a bit like Manchester United, Manchester City, isn't it? Really, when you look at it. I just thought of that right now. City up the top, United shit. Probably very similar to that situation. But it really is difficult for Phoenix fans to see Auckland sitting pretty at the top of the league while they've just slumped.
Not just that, every time they've played each other, Auckland have smacked them, whether it be a massive scoreline or just getting that late winner that they had at the Cake Tin. I think it'll be a big off-season for Wellington, and they've already had a few rumoured departures possibly heading our way. Scott Wootton and Sam Sutton. That seems to be the rumour that's flying about.
Interesting times. We'll see where that goes. We'll have a bit of a chat about that in the next section. Boys, my bad was Storm Roo getting sent off. It was probably just a bit unnecessary, and I get it. Timmins was all over him, but you just can't go throwing elbows. You're likely to get thrown in a derby, and then you get pumped 6-0. Mark Jackson has to come out and apologise to the fans. Look, were they going to get beaten anyway? Possibly, but
not
were they
by
not by 6? So
he's another coach that could be gone.
Correct. Yeah. So that was my bad. Let's throw around the uglies, boys.
Well, we saw a good leeway in Mariners. They're my ugly. 4 of their last 7 games, they haven't scored a goal. Obviously, it was mentioned on the A-League Off Air podcast that if Mark Jackson didn't get more assurances from the club that he'd be getting more resources for next season, he'd consider going. It was immaculate, the job that he did in his first season where they won the treble, but this season it's just been anything but. I think the recruitment's been crap. I think their brand of football hasn't been as exciting as it was in the first season. Obviously the Mariners don't boast the biggest budget in the A-League, but I think it's clear that they need some injection of funds so that, be it Jackson or be it someone else, they can bring in a bit more quality to help out some of their promising young players that they do have.
Yeah, I think Richard Pale's been quite open with this, though, that he does need a partner.
Exactly.
And this was spoken about going all the way back to that documentary about when they did go through and win the league, because they've come from this spot as well. They kind of got a bit of an injection of funds. They were very, very smart with their money. And now they've kind of gone back into those kind of...
You'd hope it's not a repeat of that period where they were winning spoon after spoon after spoon. You'd hope this isn't the precedent.
I hope it is, because someone else would win the spoon.
Okay, for as much as let's not be negative, but for a club like Mariners, where they have been a success story because they've shown clubs like Glory that you don't need to have the biggest budget. If you develop your youth correctly and get your recruitment correct and have a good style of football, then you can have success.
Yeah.
But obviously it's not ideal for a club that definitely means a lot to the region.
You're not going to get it right every single year.
No, of course not. No.
I mean, that's impossible to do in a salary-capped league, and when you're pretty, hamstrung in how you can operate as well.
It's not ideal.
But, I mean, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater, though. The first team to win the treble
in
Australia, and I don't think that's got anywhere near enough credit. Yeah, it was a secondary Asian competition.
Still Asia.
Yeah, it's the A-League. Yeah, it's the Cup. Yeah, it's the whatever. We hear this all the time, but I think what we're not very good at is celebrating those small wins, or those wins, no matter how big they are, when we do get them in this league. So... Yeah. Yes, they've gone backwards, but yeah, I mean, they've had a tremendous rise up to that point. Maybe they're just leveling out for a bit, and hopefully they can have another run.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I had them as my ugly as well, because this team is just unrecognisable from the team that won it last year, and they don't look anything like a team that's the 2-time reigning champions of Asia. Yeah, whether it be the first tier, second tier, whatever it is, but yeah, they've been pretty shocking. The other thing I could have said was Stephen Walk, because
write that in your diary.
Yeah, well, it all goes back to his tweet where he said to Matt Vandenberg, "I'm liking the view from up here." And since then, they've lost 6 and drawn 2 and have not won. I mean, we like characters like that, and he's easy to hate. And I know Adelaide fans love him, so we do need characters like that. But at the same time, we can also pull them up when they open their mouth and they can't back it up. Well. His team can't back it up because, ever since then, they've fallen off a cliff.
Neil, keep us rolling, mate. Ugly?
I'm going to say the coverage of football at the moment in Perth. Mentioned to you guys the weekend that post-game, it was myself and Ben Smith doing Carl Veert's press conference. Yasu from the Perth Express joined us for David Zdrillic for the Japanese angle. He does a Japanese publication here. Does a lot with the Japanese lads, Okamoto, Mizao, Otta before that. But it's very Japanese focused. But yeah, so it was us, and I know there was NRL on at the weekend, and the Associated Press would have been prioritising that. Plus, the Athletics was on as well, which was definitely a big deal. But both AFL teams were in Adelaide for gather round. There was no Wildcats on. There was no Force. And yet you've got one paid journo there for Carl Veert, it's a big story. Adelaide slump plus him leaving, as he said himself, the club he loves. He said that in the presser, and you kind of felt bad for him. And then with David Zdrillic, and obviously we'll get on to the news about him. But yeah, it's like, poor Ben. If I wasn't there, it would have been just 1-1.
Is that more of a reflection on the game or the media?
I think it's a little bit of both, because the A-League don't even send their own person anymore. They used to have somebody at the presser here.
Yeah.
And they don't. That's budget cuts.
And that's funny, because we know that there are people and reps from the A-League that specifically write for the A-League in Perth.
Yeah, in Perth. Yeah. So, and they used to be at all the press conferences, but now they don't get paid to do it. They go to games, they do the odd bits and pieces from home, and they use the quotes, or somebody over east just gets the press conference and transcribes the quotes and writes an article about it. It's not actually someone who's on the ground covering.
I mean, we spoke about this and the whole of, and you could probably do a full podcast on this, and maybe it's worth having a chat to Ben or someone like that down the line. But we spoke last week about the A-League off-air going under, Global Game now going under as well.
It's not a new thing. I remember a press conference where it was me and Marcus Babbel one year just before he was scared to get sacked from Western Sydney. Went out, had his smoke, came in, sat with me. I asked him, was he going to get sacked? And he went, well, probably. And then he left. and it was awkward as anything. But that's like, people don't see what goes on behind the curtain. There's just nobody there.
The other disappointing part is I know they kind of do this on the coverage, but the other disappointing part is there's no one there from the host broadcaster.
Yeah.
Whether it's a Steve Allen or someone like that. And, these decisions are made well above most of the people attending. Don't get me wrong.
It's penny pinching, cost cutting, all of that sort of stuff. But it is if you walk into the room and Garrett's there doing his great stuff that he's doing for Glory, but then it's one-page journo and me because I have the time and it's a hobby for me to be there.
Yeah.
And no one else.
Yeah.
Like it's sad. It's a little bit sad. And I know Glory have had a terrible season and focus is elsewhere and all of that, but there's just so little interest in a post-match press conference and look, don't get me wrong, post-match press conferences generally are by the numbers. You know, you talk about the game, the goals, who's happy and who's sad. One coach is happy, one coach is sad. Who's injured? Do you get anybody back next week? What are your thoughts on next week's game? It's formulaic and all of that.
Yeah.
But they have a requirement to do it, and I feel that there's just so little coverage. And to be fair, the two press conferences were pretty decent at the weekend because you had the Carl Veart story, and obviously before the game, the news broke about David Zdrillic being endorsed for another year. So there was potential there for some juicy questions and whatnot. But yeah, no one really cares.
See, I'm not a fan of broadcasting remotely.
But their AFL are doing it now, and it's very clear they're celebrating a goal when it's gone behind. They're giving, and it is very obvious.
I'm not a fan of that at all. You just lose a fair bit. And
authenticity.
I've been lucky enough to commentate on matches inside the stadium, which I was doing on the weekend, and I've done it remotely. Yeah. And even as a commentator, it's much, much better to be there. You feel more relaxed. You get into the game a little bit more.
I'd imagine you'd feel
you're not working off 5 screens.
You can also notice things that are actually happening in other parts of the pitch as well, because at home you only see what the camera shows you.
And if you ever have a listen, which you might one day if you're that way inclined. But I mean, myself and Murray Stevens, to give you a bit, I mean, we talk a little bit about the noise coming out of the shed. We even had a conversation about the bloke that came back up to take his seat, and his mate was giving him stick because he was away in the bathroom and he missed the Pearman's goal on the weekend. So, just little quirks and stuff that you can throw in, and you miss all that when you're remote. So, it was all right.
So support the people, the likes of Ben and Justin Chadwick when he's there as well, that actually are turning up and bothering to write reports, interview pieces. Read their stuff.
And keep listening to the podcast as well. My ugly boys, Ange is gone, surely.
He's finished.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
Done. Losing to Wolves.
It's the manner as well of the defeat.
Yeah. What was that? I read a bit of a BBC article on this, and was there talk about that somebody reckons someone's leaking stuff out of the club, and there was a line in there, and then it didn't explain what that line was, and I was like, where did this come from?
I don't think he needs leaks to sabotage him, to be honest. At this stage, he's already got his goalkeeper and his defenders doing that for him. So some of the mistakes you had, what Vicario was doing, pushing the ball into his own defender. You had centre-back robbed of the ball on the edge of the box and for a tap-in, and then you have Bergvall in midfield. They're 3-2 down. They're pushing for an equaliser, and Bergvall loses the ball in the centre circle. It's a straight through ball to Cunha, and he slots it away, and that puts the game away. 3 coach killers. We've talked about coach killers with David Zdrillic enough, but Ange has been on the receiving end. And you look at Tottenham's goals scored this season. I want to say, and I'll fill time while I bring up the Premier League table, I think they've scored something like 60 goals. And yes, they have scored 60. Manchester United, who are just one place above them, have scored 38. Everton have scored 34. They've scored 60 goals and they've lost 17 league games.
Third most in the league goals scored.
That's it. They're back. They're scoring goals, but they are just being ruined going the other way. And we knew that was the case with Ange's rock and roll football and attacking and all of that, you are going to ship some at the end, but losing 17 games is
just very, very quickly, what's next for Ange Postecoglou, do you feel?
I was actually asked this question last week when I was on the radio. And I think somewhere like Holland or Belgium. I think a
bit more technical.
Another Farmers League. Another Farmers League.
Does he get into Germany, do you feel?
Maybe at a lower table, but he's not getting, like, Spurs are a big club in name, definitely not in what they've won lately in position, but maybe he gets into Germany at a hipster club.
Is he going to Spain?
I just feel like
Or Italy?
like a Feyenoord or a PSV or maybe a Club Brugge or somebody. Well, they did well in the Champions League.
Yeah.
They're probably not going to sack their coach, but I do think he's done Japan. He's done Scotland and all of that. He won't come back to the A-League yet, I don't think. He won't
go back to Scotland.
He won't do Socceroos again. And he's in his 60s. So he probably has one more 4 to 5 year job in Europe left in him, I would say.
Yeah, so, interesting times.
But maybe other people think otherwise.
Yeah.
Go to Ireland.
That'd be an experience.
You're going to get rid of Damien Duff, are you?
No. Duff is a far better coach than Ange.
Oh, how many Asian Cups has Duff won?
In Duffer we trust. He won't leave Ireland. He's too loyal. He doesn't care about your Asian Cups.
Well, there we go. We'll wrap things up. We'll have a bit of a deep dive into the Perth Glory next. You're on the Far Post Perth podcast.
What a run! This could be the one! It's in! That's what it's all about! And when it comes to sports gear that helps you perform your best, ID Athletic has the winning formula. From grassroots clubs to elite athletes, ID Athletic provides high-quality sporting apparel, screen printing, embroidery, and made-to-order promotional products. Proud sponsors of the Far Post Perth and passionate supporters of WA community sport. Visit ID Athletic at 84 Howe Street, Osborne Park, or online at idathletic.com. ID Athletic. Build your identity.
Tired of the same old cookie-cutter home designs? Dreaming of a space that truly reflects you? Then it's time to talk to the team at Trio Homes. Whether you're looking to build your dream home, redesign your current space, or simply renovate, Trio Homes is committed to unique designs, local personalised service, and quality workmanship. And with former Perth Glory star Dino Julbich at the helm, you'll know you're getting passion and dedication built into every project. Discover the difference with Trio Homes. Visit triohomes.com.au.
Welcome back to the Far Post Perth podcast. Big thank you to ID Athletics, ID Athletic, I should say, not Athletics. That was run at on the weekend, but ID Athletic, of course, and our good friends at Trio Homes. Boys, big win. Plenty of good things to come out of the Glory. A few good things, a few bad things, and a few ugly things, Neil, before we get into it.
I'll just go through a couple of what we received. Have some as well, Jackson? Did you?
I can get up the Facebook.
You can get up the Facebook. I'll go through the Twitter. The good, the scoreline, the bad, Adelaide United, and the ugly, which is where we're headed, Zdrillic is staying. So, I think we'll get a little bit deeper into that, and it's probably going to be a common divider, I suppose, among supporters, especially as we head into the off-season. So, a few more?
Yeah, mainly all the goods are pretty much just winning, and someone said the amazing pre-game atmosphere at the Shoe Bar. Some of the bad, Zdrillic was to be manager next season. It's taken us that long to win. I think it was 10, it was 9 or 10 games
10
on a losing streak.
Yeah, another one, yep.
Another one about Zdrillic. Football West sending 13-year-old kids to get smashed 20-0 because of giving everyone fair opportunity.
Ooh.
Not sure what that one's about. Maybe that's good for me on that. And a few uglies. The hangover from celebrating the win till 5 a.m. on Sunday morning.
Yeah, decent. Rate it.
Adelaide's still falling in form. Facing another rebuild in the off-season as half the team are out of contract or leaving. That's what I'm very keen on and interested to see how that goes.
Yep.
Who's going to leave and who's coming in. That's definitely one.
We'll certainly deep dive into that. If not tonight, then we'll do that in coming weeks, because that's going to be who stays, who goes, and everything else.
Yeah, and one last one. WA football in general. Is
that a good, a bad, or an ugly?
That's an ugly.
An ugly.
That's an ugly. Just to wrap it up.
Thanks for the positive contributions. Cool. All right, boys, let's talk about the game on the weekend. My first reaction was, and I think I put it in a little bit of a personal Facebook post, was, where the hell has that been all season? Because that was by far and away the best performance that they've dished up.
It was like watching the Australia Cup. For me, it was like watching that Brisbane 4-2 win that we had in the first Australia Cup game, where we were able to press reasonably well, and we went back to our roots as to how we could attack more efficiently, which we should have been doing for more of this season, which was our transition play. Whenever we could generate those transition moments where we could look to attack space with speed, we looked very, very good. And you made the point, I think, earlier on in the season where Taggart would get most of his goals last season from quick balls out wide.
Correct.
Lo and behold,
Yep.
a quick ball out wide from Mila Jusnic to tag it, and an excellent flick at the front post was a great goal. And it obviously helps when you've got someone like Jalen Pearman, who was absolutely outstanding. And I'm convinced he'll smash it over at QPR if he can not only maintain this level, but look to go up a few levels. He was excellent. And I think the boys in general were faultless, but I think it is a valid question to ask, okay, we've had 25 games. Why are we only seeing it now?
And there's a lot of talk about being underdone. I didn't see any signs of being underdone on the weekend.
No, they were because there was, I guess, that belief within the players that we hadn't seen all season. Maybe there was a bit more cohesion because the starting lineup hadn't had too many changes aside from Majex coming in, who I thought was excellent. And maybe that was Zdrillic's point all along. It's like, well, if I have a bit more of a cohesive team and it's not, getting all this change every single week where I'm having to go through like 3, 4, 5, 6 changes, then I can build that continuity, and maybe it's a little bit easier to implement a brand of football that's a little bit more detailed than just your average, I guess, game plan.
Neil, I'm going to throw this one to you, but it seemed like there was a much better, to use the lack of a better phrase, mindset. There was more of a free flowing. There was more of a, the idea to express yourself as a player for a lot of them. I thought there wasn't any real passengers on the park. There was a few quiet spells by maybe a couple of people, but I think there was contributors. How did you see all that side of it?
Yeah, I think work rate was good. Self and Jackson commented a little bit on like Miljusic was up and down.
Yep.
Good work ethic to get. There was one particular corner where he tracked back and got into his own penalty box to help out, and ran past a load of players doing so. And look, that's a guy who has had injury problems before he came to Perth, and it was always a concern. He's had injury problems while he's been here. But he definitely, I don't think the issue with him was ever that he wasn't going to be able to contribute as a player. It's could he be on the park long enough to do that? And every time he came back, he would break down again, and it would take you 4 or 5 games to get fit. And it was just a mess of a season. And the underdone thing has been talked about a lot, but rightly so. If you're signing injured players and whatnot, then they are going to be underdone for quite a bulk of the season. But I do think that, yes, they did look a little bit more, less panicked, I suppose, because when they coughed up that goal, which was, let's be honest, that was a typical Glory goal to concede this season, a sloppy touch and a ball across your own penalty area and you're suitably punished. I think most people in the stadium would have thought, here we go again.
Yeah.
Because they've had an issue with conceding quick succession goals as well. Concede 1, 5 minutes later, concede 2. I think that was something that was different, and they kicked on, and they didn't look. We spoke about with David Zdrillic where he said that when you're at the bottom, things go against you, and whatnot, and that gets in your head, and you don't maybe go full hearted into tackles, or you're hesitant when you come out for a cross, or you don't put your foot through the ball when you're through on goal. And they actually got that little bit of a slice of luck with Trent Ostler's goal, with the deflection on that, because that was a bit of a daisy cutter, and probably very easily savable. But the deflection went in Glory's favour for a change, and maybe that flipped the switch with them as well. That actually this is gone for us now. We can kick on and win this game. I also felt that they played with a bit more freedom. Maybe weren't as rigid structurally.
Yeah.
Now, it made for a very open game at times, and they were definitely still susceptible to the counter-attack. Now, they won 4-1, but I think a team better than Adelaide, or maybe in better position than Adelaide, would have scored more than one, because they were quite open at times. So all the problems didn't go away, but what we saw was a team that was playing with a lot more confidence than we've seen in previous weeks. And yeah, it shouldn't take 23 league games for that to happen. So all is not by salvage by all means. They could go out to Auckland and get absolutely destroyed. I hope they don't. I hope they have the week off now and go and put in 2 good performances to finish off. But it's just one game, so temper expectations, and hopefully that is the start of something.
Yeah. I guess just back on the mindset thing, I'd love to know how much work's being done on that psychological part of the game, and whether it has been identified as an issue, because at that level of sport, across a number of different sports, that is a huge focus, is mindset.
Well, maybe that is something that we need to consider perhaps for next season, to try and find those marginal gains. Because it's clear that they're going to keep Zdrillic. So the question should be, how can we make next season as successful as possible? Where can we get an edge over our opponents? Maybe that might be mental skills training, perhaps working on discipline, working on focus, working on belief.
Yeah.
Maybe that could be an extra that the players could do to get that edge over their opponents, perhaps.
It absolutely fascinates me, that part of the game and that part of sport. It's a huge rabbit hole to go down, and it's, some of to give you an example, Steve Smith, Australian cricketer, he's one of the known for it, and it's virtually in between deliveries. He actually taps his pads to switch on and switch off. And, it's these little, physical triggers and everything else like that. I found it fascinating.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. And I think I was very impressed with it, especially because it got towards the 70th minute and we weren't really doing much on the break. It felt like we were kind of sitting back and allowing Adelaide a bit of control, and we really needed the third goal. And then once you got the third goal, then confidence goes through the roof, the crowd gets involved, and then you get the fourth right after, and immediately that confidence comes back and it picks right up.
Really interesting was Nico Pennington, who put that ball through for the first one, but just the way that he kind of gathered, got up, saw him, and had a bit of a crack at him, which ended up pulling that off. But I wanted to talk about the Amos Pennington partnership. Is that something to build on for next year?
Yeah, because it's balanced, I think. I think you get Amos's physical presence in there because Amos is playing not at 100% because he's only playing 60 minutes.
Yeah.
So this isn't Amos at his best. The exciting thing would be Amos when he's 100% fully fit and understands not just Zdrillic's system, but understands the players, assuming we keep him for next season. You get that bit more grunt, I guess, and that physical presence that can stop transitions in Amos.
Yeah.
And then you get that class with Pennington.
There was a couple of really good moments from Amos, just to pick it out. It was easily identifiable because it was following the corners when Adelaide came out on the break, and he was there 9 times out of 10.
We missed that player all season.
As that first, as that first man.
But I think the
I thought it was good.
They should have signed him by now.
Yeah.
I know we mentioned it. If your results are crap, give us something off the field. Sign him.
Yeah.
Put a contract from or else someone else will take him.
Boys, just before we move on, and Neil, you're at the presser, but ultimately David Zdrillic is here for next year. It seems that looks like it's pretty much in the bank unless something untoward happens within now and the end of season review. Is that the way you read it?
Well, that's the way I asked him.
Yeah.
I said that they've endorsed you. Are you here? And he said, yeah. That's better, yeah. But essentially, he's not going anywhere, and I think we spoke about that they can't afford to pay him out. He's got 2 years left in his contract, so he's also being brought in as one of the boys as well. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
So I think they're putting their faith in him. I do believe that it was the right move to endorse him now rather than waiting for a stupid review and it drags into the off season. If people are pissed off, let them be pissed off now. And then by the time preseason starts, they've gotten around to the idea he's staying. Right, this is where we're at. I do also think, though, that if they are keeping him, they need to make a bit of a splash when it comes to the signings because he's still not... He hasn't proven anything.
Yeah. He hasn't. No.
So there's still plenty... The jury is very much still out and it will continue to be. And I don't blame anybody who's annoyed about it because the results and the league position are still terrible. That one win doesn't change any of that.
If anything, I think it papers some cracks.
Yeah, but I am fine with them making a decision now rather than it dragging into May, June, July, whatever, and then we don't know whether we're coming or going. If it's decided upon now, then sure, we can deal with it and we can move on.
As you said a little bit earlier on in the podcast season, he's staying, so shut the hell up. But that's it.
But that's the thing. Since he is staying, the club have to make sure that he has the best possible chance to succeed next season, be it players, be it resources, be it support staff. The players have to be, for his sake, to try and win back the fans, they've got to hit pre-season and they've got to hit round one running hard and not looking back.
Agree. Any other thoughts on the Glory before we move on?
Your nonsense about 7:45 kickoffs.
I love it. I thought it was fantastic.
Why?
Because I just think it's excellent.
Won't someone think of the children?
Never mind the kids. Why does everything have to be focused towards families? Why can't you have
because we want to bring them in?
But why can't you have the odd one that is targeted, as I said on Twitter, and it might have been a bit of a throwaway, but I think there's a little bit of sense to it. Have it targeted towards that older crowd. Hey, this is your Saturday night sorted. Come out to the Glory.
Have Saturday night start at 6:45 instead of 7:45.
No, you can't. And you know what?
I'm a Euro snob. I want to get home for the Premier League starting at 10 o'clock.
Well, it was really weird because I was keeping up to date with what was happening in the Leeds game. The Leeds game finished before Perth did. So
City were on at the same time as Glory, and we were there getting the updates on live score.
No, I quite enjoyed it. I thought it was. I like it. I've been to a couple of games in Europe.
This is like daylight savings time.
Started a bit
about splitting the difference between an hour.
A bit later in Spain, and have yourself a bit
10
of
o'clock
siesta.
kickoffs like Spain. Could you imagine? There'd be nobody here for it. There'd be nothing open when you left the game.
Middle of summer, beautiful. Throw on some daylight savings.
Daylight savings we can agree on. Bring that in. That's one of the weirdest
No, I thought it was excellent. I really enjoyed it. Long may it continue. Right, let's move on, boys. We'll come out the other side. We'll have a bit of a... Actually, let's go through the other results from the weekend from the A-League very, very quickly. Melbourne City 3-2 over Brisbane. Wellington, they went down 2-3 to a Melbourne victory. Sydney 2-2 against Auckland. That was probably match of the round on how that one played out. Newcastle, as mentioned, they absolutely battered a 10-man Central Coast. A good win for Perth, 4-1 over Adelaide and the Wanderers. Maybe a bit of a surprise. Neil spoke about them coming good at the right time. So there we go. That was the results from across the weekend. Right, let's take a quick break. We'll come out on the other side and have a look ahead to this weekend. You're on the Far Post Perth podcast.
What a run! This could be the one! It's in! That's what it's all about! And when it comes to sports gear that helps you perform your best, ID Athletic has the winning formula. From grassroots clubs to elite athletes, ID Athletic provides high-quality sporting apparel, screen printing, embroidery, and made-to-order promotional products. Proud sponsors of the Far Post Perth and passionate supporters of WA community sport. Visit ID Athletic at 84 Howe Street, Osborne Park, or online at idathletic.com. ID Athletic. Build your identity.
Tired of the same old cookie cutter home designs? Dreaming of a space that truly reflects you? Then it's time to talk to the team at Trio Homes. Whether you're looking to build your dream home, redesign your current space, or simply renovate, Trio Homes is committed to unique designs, local personalised service, and quality workmanship. And with former Perth Glory star Dino Julbich at the helm, you'll know you're getting passion and dedication built into every project. Discover the difference with Trio Homes. Visit triohomes.com.au.
Final part of the Far Post Perth podcast. Just to have a quick look back, gents, at what happened locally across the weekend. No NPL men's competition. It was an Australia Cup round. So just to go through some quick results there. Fremantle City over East Perth. They gave a good go over East Perth, but ultimately went down 4-2. Florida Athena, they knocked out Perth Red Star on penalties. Inglewood knocked out Gwelup on penalties. They all went pretty to plan, I think. Western Knights over Wanneroo, Quins over Gosnells, Mum FC over Port Kennedy. A 5-2 win for Olympic Kingsway over Armidale. My boys, Perth Zuri, they beat Perth AFC 12-0. Unfortunately, Perth AFC got a player sent off and the floodgates opened in that second half and they just, they turned it on a little bit. Balcatta Etna beat Wembley Downs. UW8 beat Canning Sorrento. They went down. Probably the only real upset was they went down to Subiaco. So interesting one there with one of the NPL.
3-0 up as well.
They were 3-0 up and they went down 5-3. And Kingsley Westside accounted easily for Football Margaret River. So there you go. A bit happening in that department. What else have we got here? Have we got some NPLW results very quickly. Hyundai Academy, Football West Academy, they beat Mum FC 4-0. Perth Red Star, they drew 0-0 with Fremantle City. Perth SC drew 1-1 with Subiaco, and UWA went down 5-1 to Balcatta Etna. So, interesting season happening in the women's. Boys, let's have a look ahead now to the... Actually, James, you wanted to have a bit of a chat about the A-League women?
Yeah, unfortunately, finals dead and buried with that loss to Sydney. Details cost them again. Probably should have had a penalty early in the second half. Abdul Massi, I thought, was brought down. It should have been a pen, I feel. And then Princess Abini probably should have been sent off as well. I mean, that sort of action has been given a red card before. Susan Fonson-Camp should have scored her one-on-one chance.
Lots of shooters in there, mate.
Lots of shooters. And then the final shooter, we should have defended that goal that Abini scored far better. Johnson lost Abini at the back post, and we were too slow to put any pressure on that shot. So, unfortunate.
What's going to be one to watch this year is the distribution of Perth Glory players back into the NPLW system.
Yeah.
If that happens at all, or whether Stephen Peters, from all reports, would prefer the players, if they are going to stay in Australia in the off-season, to go and play over East, where it's considered a higher level. So a bit of a conversation happening around that. Watch your space.
What should they do?
It's an interesting... I don't know enough to be able to give an opinion, if I'm purely honest with you. I don't know enough about how high those New South Wales and NPL Vic competitions are.
By all accounts, they're better than here, because a lot of players have been brought over from those competitions to play here.
Then you've got the personal well-being of the players. They have to go over there, they have to get a job, they have to get rentals, they have to do this, do that, and everything else like that. So it's a much... I had a chat about this on another podcast. It's a much, much tougher task for the girls to go and do these and follow these pathways than what it might be for the blokes at the moment.
But I guess those that are from the East Coast, going back and playing at home, living with their parents or living with whatever friends, that makes perfect sense, and go play at a higher level as well.
Correct. So it depends on which way you want to look at it.
But it would also be interesting, and I know money is key, but if Football West or Glory or whoever was to subsidise some of the East Coast players staying and boosting the standard of the local competition, I think that's something that should probably be done if we had the money for it, but we probably don't. So
there's been a lot of talk about, as I said, A-League players going back to the same club. So it's the rich get richer and the poor get poorer kind of style. But there was talk about the distribution. Let's just say, there's got to be at least 3 go back to each club kind of thing to distribute that talent. Rightly or wrongly, I think it's probably got merit. But, conversations are happening around this at the moment and what that might look like. It's all about implementation from here on in. Right, final round of the A-League Women's across the weekend. Adelaide v Sydney, Perth v Melbourne City, 7 p.m. Friday night. You can go and give a big farewell to the girls down there. It'd be fantastic if we can get a little bit of a crowd. No men's football, so Friday night looks like it might be the way to go. Good Friday as well, so everyone's got a bit of time on their hands, so it might be a good opportunity. Melbourne Victory v Brisbane, Newcastle v Central Coast, Western Sydney v Canberra, and Wellington v Western United. Just a quick one that this really irks me as well. The Adelaide Sydney game starts at like 2:50 our time, so that is, what's that, 4:50 on a Friday afternoon. It is Good Friday, but I've seen these before, and it just, doesn't really kind of sit right with me.
I don't mind that, because it leaves you time. What's over at 7 o'clock over there?
And they've got the double header, I think.
It is, but we see this on a regular Friday. I was like, how can you take this in?
Yes, I disagree. But when there's like a public holiday, East Coast and whatnot.
Yep. A-League men's, boys, some quick tips as we go around the tables, and I'll stop flicking my pen. Brisbane v Western United. This is on Thursday.
Western
better win.
Western United should bounce back, but a little bit, cautious after that result against Western.
Western United for me. Good Friday football, Adelaide v Wellington.
Surely Adelaide get a win.
Draw.
Who wants to lose the most? Draw.
I'm going to go Adelaide to bounce back at home, try and give Carl Viet somewhat of a send-off. Melbourne Victory v Auckland. This is going to be a beauty. Auckland on 2 away matches now. It'll be interesting to see how they handle it.
Victory.
Yeah, victory.
I think Auckland may have gotten a little bit complacent at the top in recent weeks, and Melbourne City are now closing the gap. So, but I don't think they'll win. I think they'll draw. Now.
Yeah, I think Auckland will drop points. It's just how many.
Yeah, I agree.
But I'm really hoping they do, because it'd be great if it can go down to that last round.
Yeah.
It'd be brilliant. Western Sydney v Melbourne City. This is the pin-up game on Saturday evening.
I can't see the Wanderers slipping up. And now that I've said that, they'll probably lose, but I think they'll win.
Yeah, I'll back in the Wanderers.
City have won 4 of the last 5, and so I think it's going to be a really good game. But I think Western Sydney, if they get a decent crowd, will do it and make it tasty for that second spot.
Sydney v Newcastle. Sydney
Should
surely
be fairly regular.
Newcastle.
Yeah, I actually wouldn't be surprised. Newcastle, heavy legs from playing in Asia and whatnot.
How did Sydney FC lose to that team from Singapore? Can anyone explain me that?
Lion City?
Yeah.
Well, they are backed by a billionaire.
Are they?
Lion City, yeah. They are backed by a company called C, and I think their owner has like a net worth of like $6 billion or something like that.
Yeah, right.
A really wealthy dude.
Yeah. Cool.
But I think they were playing on a different sort of pitch as well. I think that was something that might have been discussed.
Quite possibly. It certainly threw me out that. But anyway, going off on a tangent. Last game of the round, Central Coast v Macarthur.
Bulls.
Yeah, Macarthur.
MacArthur, yeah.
Yeah, Macarthur for me. Boys, final thoughts, final predictions, nonsense predictions, any other bullshit you want to get out? Do it now, forever hold your peace.
Hopefully Glory have a big off season. That's just my big call. Hopefully that there's...
Do you want to be any more vague or what?
Stan finally makes a WOW signing.
I was going to go similar lines. We either get Amos or Wales re-signing, or they announce Wooten or Sutton this week.
I'm just really looking forward to the fan forum.
Well,
Virtual.
Next week.
Bring on the chaos.
Well, yeah.
Keyboard warriors unite. I cannot wait.
Going to be very interesting to see how that goes down. So just to remind the listeners that we will have a bit of a rescheduled pod next week.
Yeah, because we are working our schedule around what is sure to be the event of the year. I was a little bit, we discussed about not having it in person.
Yeah.
But now I'm thinking, do you know what? People are going to be so brave and bold behind the keyboard with their fake names dialing into the Teams meeting. I cannot wait to see what chaos ensues, because you'll have. We still don't know who's going to be there on the panel. So I assume that you'll get the football department.
Can we just start calling you Sherwin the shit stirrer?
Nah, well, look,
don't encourage everyone.
Think of the content you could get out of that with reels and whatnot, and then you put snippets, and it could be great. It could be really good.
I hope some good comes out of it. I'm not as what's the words? Yeah, that's probably the word I was after.
I just want to enjoy myself.
Yep.
I'm just looking to be entertained.
There you go.
But that's next Tuesday at 7 p.m.
Yep.
And jokes aside, there's been plenty of expressions of interest apparently so far. And if you're a member and whatnot, and you've got the link, get on there. Register, and 7 p.m. for an hour and a half. I think an hour and a half is too short.
See you next Tuesday.
Yes, we will. There'll be plenty of that.
Big thank you to ID Athletic. Big thank you to Trio Homes. Don't forget to spread the word about the Far Post Perth podcast. If you can head over to Spotify, Apple, and all your favourite podcast providers, leave a bit of a rating, leave a review, leave a comment. That would be absolutely fantastic. Until next week, enjoy your football. This has been the Far Post Perth podcast.